We got quite a few updates regarding this Matcherino situation and the slandering of Audit's name. Now, you would probably assume that updates means that in some sort of way, Matcherino has made some statements like clearing up things. That still hasn't happened. We've all been waiting for Matcherino to do an audit. We've been waiting on that, expecting them to finally clear his name. I've discovered, obviously, that Matcherino isn't doing an audit at all. To do an audit in this kind of a situation, considering the fact that a lot of the transactions were happening on a third-party site, PayPal, which is private, would require Matcherino to do two things. They'd either have to go to Arturo himself and ask him for proof of these private transactions, or go to the person who was supposed to be paid out and get proof of those private transactions. Art has done 1,300 events over this 5-year period. So then if that's the case, then that means now how many audits are there going to be? Someone did the math actually, and they found out that about $125,000 worth of payments were through PayPal or a third party. That's a lot of receipts. That's a lot to go through. So instead of doing that, they've just decided to do nothing. That's why they're not releasing any statements. And that's kind of why the situation is what it is. But something that I also discovered is I think I began to misremember what exactly the statement was that Matcherino made. You see, at this point, I was like, man, Matcherino is accusing Art of stealing, and that's so wrong. And I realize now that Matcherino never did any such thing. The only thing they accused him of was mishandling of funds. That could be boiled down to simply not having the payments on time. Anything past 30 days is violation of Matcherino's terms of service and would be considered mishandling of funds. That's all that they've accused him of. So if all Matcherino did was say that he mishandled funds, which of course we all understand could be late payments, then where did this idea of stealing come from? Well, that boils down to 3 specific people: D-Nice, Bifuteki, and of course Bum. D-Nice and Bifuteki ended up making a Twitter space in which they just made all sorts of insane accusations. They were just going completely nuts, saying that he pocketed $6,000, that he couldn't pay any of it back because he had spent it all of these kinds of things. But it gets so much worse than that. Bifuteki originally started out saying, just so we're clear, I don't talk trash about anybody. I don't ever talk trash. And then immediately proceeded to start accusing Art of possibly smoking crack, bringing up all sorts of irrelevant things. Like, I work for the NBA and Art's never done anything, and I'm better than him, and I was just waiting for an opportunity for him to expose himself. I knew he would show everyone. Him and D-Nice just went crazy, accusing Art of all of this nonsense with no evidence. The whole idea about Mike not being paid out, they even mentioned that. And the thing is, some of the things that they stated were, oh, people haven't been paid yet, which was true. And so then all of the money had been given to Matcherino to actually handle it themselves, and they did eventually. But the fact of the matter was, nothing was stolen. Let's get into why this stream happened. Okay? So I reached out to Bifuteki after the stream originally, and him and I had a pretty lengthy debate. It was on stream, and I wasn't nearly as informed at the time, but even then I could see through a bunch of the lies and things that he stated. So I asked him, hey, we need to have a follow-up, considering that now I know significantly more. We all have the receipts to see that some of the things you said were wrong. And what he told me was he was done with the situation. After you spread lies, accuse a man of smoking crack, accuse him of theft, tell him that he's going to be, mention that he's going to be doing time in prison, because in the state of New York, only anything over X amount of dollars means that you're getting at least 2 years prison time. When you start putting out these allegations in this way, taking things into a legal place for someone being late on payment, I don't think you can just sit there and say, well, I've said my piece and I'm done. But that's exactly what he communicated to me. I'm not really one for leaking DMs typically, but I very clearly told him this conversation is going online, because I think it's absolutely disgusting what he did. So let's go over some of that. So after I initially asked him to talk, and he was like, about what? I'm like, obviously the same situation, the thing that I've been making videos about, the thing that you literally are like the catalyst for this becoming the problem that it is. Anyways, he says, I'm done with the situation. I have moved on. I have a lot on the plate. He's talking about he's putting together 18 events. This is coming from the man who couldn't understand why a person would be late managing 1,300 events. Then he said, oh, this week is tough. I was like, okay, when next week? well, I really am done. I have a meeting and so on and so forth. And so it's like, okay, I see you're just trying your best to shuffle on out of this conversation, but this is where it gets really crazy and he really exposes himself. The same energy he gave me, he gets from me. He did nothing to stop the threats and all that. I had to sit and hold it. I get you want to clear his name. That's cool. But you can see that I've been upset because I couldn't get an apology at all. When we spoke about things and cleared the air, he still went back and talked. So I am done. I said what I said. I am done. It's crazy and it's cowardice to spread these kind of lies, to make the situation what it is, to be so censorious in that Twitter space, and then to come to this situation when someone has the receipts and now has proof and then say, nah, I'm not really about that talk anymore. That is foul. Everyone can see you. You don't get to stir up all of this drama and then just fade out when everybody finally starts waking up. Now, I think he recognizes how many people are starting to see, wow, Art really was a stand-up guy. A lot of people were already withholding judgment, but now the amount of people that have come forward, now he wants to get quiet. I don't respect that at all. He's not the only one. Bum did the same thing. After he did a 2-hour stream attacking me, I reached out to him and I asked him, hey, again, I don't really like sharing DMs and things like that, but since he showed these DMs on his stream, I might as well. He asked me to come onto his stream to have a conversation with him while I was on my way to work. I couldn't make it, but then he decided to get petty and start saying like, no, I'm not going to talk to you. When I finally came home, after he did 2 hours with my name and his title, attacking me, talking about all sorts of nonsense that he had no idea about, just making himself look really, really dumb. And so I say, hey man, we need to talk after that last stream. Nah, I'm good. So you talk a bunch of trash and then you say I'm good. He did the same thing to Art. After all the stuff that he said about Art in the last stream, you know what he said? I'm done talking about this situation. I don't want to talk about it anymore. He went as far as to block Art on all communication, even though Art had not spoken to him in any capacity, hadn't reached out to him, hadn't tweeted at him, nothing. And he's like, I don't want to talk about this situation anymore. So you soak up all this drama, spew it all out to the community, make everything worse. One of the 3 main catalysts for all of this, and then you say, by the way, I'm done talking about it. He did the same thing about me. He said, I don't want to talk about it. You dedicated 5 straight hours about me and then say, I don't want to talk about it anymore. He went as far of not just saying I don't want to talk about it. He banned me, banned my name, banned Fanatiq with a C, and said, if any person brings up this, then I will ban you. That's what he said. So he's not only not willing to talk about it, he wants so badly to insulate himself from any of the repercussions and the follow-up videos and people exposing all of the things that he's done, that he's made it anathema to his stream. You cannot mention it in any capacity or you will be banned. He said he didn't care how much you support him, anything. Now he's tucked his tail and ran. So now you have Bifuteki, Bum, and then let's look at D-Nice. D-Nice started a thread with the initial video because the initial video that I did was just exposing Bum's hypocrisy. I wasn't showing all of the other stuff that he had done. So he made this thread about it, talking a bunch of trash about me. Of course, he's now deleted that thread, but it's okay. The internet always has receipts. So of course I'm going to provide that for you. This is what he was doing. He was talking about me in this way. So I reached out to him as well. Hey, let's have a talk, buddy. Of course, he's not going to respond to that. This happened in another thread where he was talking trash and saying, oh, Punisher wasn't paid. Here's the receipts. Here's the math breakdown. And so then I just simply asked him, that math breakdown doesn't have PayPal's fees. What about those? He then went silent. You see, a lot of times people come forward with these accusations and then they just immediately want to backtrack and erase all of the things that they've done. That brings us to another situation. Let's look at this MVC2 situation. Now, MVC2 was the game that I loved and adored, right? Like that was my game. You know, I was the one button dash king, the only pad player in the world to ever get top 8 at Evo. The MVC2 community in New York had put together some events called bots. And what happened was, after these accusations came forward, a bunch of people began looking to say, well, I've worked with him, let me check my receipts. MVC2 Roundhouse and Lockdown both came forward making a statement that, hey, I believe that Art mishandled funds. I think that he skimmed money off of the top. Of course, Matrix, having worked this being one of his events, he decided to check. So of course, Matrix did a thorough investigation into all of his events, and this is what he had to say about it.
When all this stuff was transpiring, the first thing we did, we got on a group called Art and we pressed them. Before we even pressed them, we did digging and we did our own research and was checking numbers and everything like that. We have a very thorough group. We went through everything that we have concerning bots and concerning NYC Battle Royale. Everything that Art's been a part of with, Matcherino and everything like that, everything checked out, everything was legit. Saying that, not to say that, everything is legit across the board. That's for everybody else to do their own personal research. But bottom line is we went straight to the source. We pressed them, everything checked out. We got receipts, we checked receipts, everything checked out.
You got to get used to that theme, because he's not the only person to make that kind of a statement. Pretty much everyone's coming forward with that exact same statement. Everyone's coming forward and saying, hey, I've checked into everything that I have, and it seems like I've always been paid. Perfect Legend put on his webpage about what's going on with this, just regarding my video and Button Check's video and his take and things, and then said, for the record, Arturo has paid me in every event that I deserved money. They went through their stream, they exposed Roundhouse and Lockdown, and eventually it was a pretty funny event. But really what was really sad to me was that immediately after he got exposed, Roundhouse just started kind of making jokes, like kind of referring to the Dave Chappelle, I plead the fifth. And it was like, it's really, I don't think it's a laughing matter when you sit here and you're accusing a man of stealing and you're dogpiling. You see an opportunity because someone else is accusing him and you jump on and start making these accusations as well. And then once you're exposed, you backpedal and say, hey man, I'm sorry. There's nothing funny about that. If Art was a man of weaker constitution, this could be disastrous. This is a terrible situation. I don't think anything was funny about it. Not only did you accuse Art then, you accused the entire production team who put together this event that put money in your pocket of stealing from you. Talk about biting the hand that feed you. Lockdown was easier to convince. Once they showed them, hey, here was the breakdown from the beginning, and they sent him the text messages where they had all stated it, he was like, you know what, you're right, I should have talked to you guys first. He deleted his post. He is willing to admit it. Roundhouse was in the chat after having been exposed to that document, saying it was never told to us and all of those things. I never knew. And then at that point, once the receipts were shown from his own mouth the following year saying, hey, we're going to do this tournament 50-50 because the last tournament was 60-40, him saying, oh yeah, you know what, wow, oops. They were asking him, are you saying that my friends are liars? Absolutely. Confident, but wrong. That brings me to the next step. There was a person on Twitter who decided to do an audit. This guy by the name of Armani went forward and did an audit, put it out. He did all of this work going through all the Matcherino payouts, did an Excel sheet where he exposed Art. In this thing, what he found out was that Art had self-paid out $125,000. That means that he had to assume the tax liability on $125,000. Of course, we all know that self-payout doesn't mean that you didn't pay those money. One of the worst parts about this entire thing is he mixed up Sabin with Sabin Deus. Sabin Deus was, I think, a tournament organizer from Soul Calibur. So he was really heavily influential and involved in the Soul Calibur community, and he included his name and was mixing his payouts with Art's. Of course, a bunch of people really went ham on the guy for this. Instead of him admitting he's wrong, he then says, yeah, I intentionally included that person. It was just a red herring to get more people to view the document. He just didn't want to admit, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that these two were different people. Of course, that made the entire Soul Calibur community come at his neck and also come forward with a bunch of receipts of their own saying, hey, we've all been paid on every event. Now we're looking at it, and yes, we've been paid. But then, Dekillsage, one of my favorite people in the fighting game community, came forward. He said, from the doc where it says I'm missing money from 2019, I've gotten emails like this showing I've been paid. Maybe like minus $3, but that's the fee to take out money. On my end, at least, it looks like I've always been paid, hoping the same for everyone else. And what this document ends up showing is the cash out from winnings for multiple events. So he got paid for $47.84, $47.95, $48.21. The way Matcherino worked was it's 4 or 5 digit event codes that these line up with what the URL says. So basically Matcherino paid him this cash from these events ... So we don't know how many events total it was, because sometimes payouts can be something like $5, $6, $3, so on and so forth. And so they just eventually cashed him out for a whole bunch of events at once, and or previously deposited money, which of course sometimes people put money in their Matcherino accounts and things like that. So the fact of the matter was he had been paid. Punisher was like, hey, I wasn't paid for some of these events. What's going on? And so then Dekillsage was pointing out, well, it doesn't really make sense that one person would probably not be paid out while other people like myself, Sonic and Sonic Fox were paid in the same event. So Art just decided not to pay Punisher. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. What it probably made sense was that Punisher was paid in cash when they were like incredibly small amounts. So once again, this guy comes forward with this audit, but this audit again doesn't say anything, because one, a self-payout doesn't mean anything. In order to actually get to the bottom of that, you have to contact one of the two people in a private transaction. You'd have to contact Art, show me proof that you paid out this person, which is what I did to Art when I first started talking to him. He gave me all of that proof. You'd have to talk to the person who received the money if you don't want to talk to Art. Person who received X money, can you show me proof that Art paid you for this event, or were you paid for this event? I was talking to that guy who did the Twitter audit, and I was asking him, hey, why don't we come and have this conversation? I want to be able to explain to you what you got wrong, especially because now that you've spread this misinformation, you have an obligation to correct it. Of course, he declined and started saying, I don't know, I might need a lawyer, this is going to be too scary, and so on and so forth. It's crazy to me. I don't know what can bring on that kind of energy. Maybe it's a lack of testosterone, which is exactly why I'm selling a product that you guys can all purchase using the promo code TST Fanatiq. I have a link in the description below where you can actually figure out how you can start taking these dietary supplements, which will give you testosterone, which can elevate your mood. And there are all of these benefits that you can research yourself. As people start getting older, a lot of times their testosterone levels can drop and things like that. So be sure to follow that. I actually get a little benefit from every person who purchases this product. Of course, using the promo code saves you 10%. So instead of us just going off of the assumption that Art didn't pay people, we would need people to come forward saying they haven't been paid. So in this case, Punisher did, and Punisher was proven to have been paid by cash because it was incredibly small amounts, and Art had been paying everyone else out in these events, so it made sense. Another person that needed to have been proven to be paid was Sonic Soul. Just like Roundhouse and Locdown, Sonic Soul looked into his own Matcherino to try to figure out if maybe there were some events that he didn't get paid. He found one such event. In 2019. In 2019, there was a next level, an NLBC event where he received something like $24, something really, really small. And he says, well, I don't remember getting paid for that. I was like, well, okay. Do you know if you got paid in cash? I don't think I did. Did you collect any cash at the tournament? Yeah, I collected cash from Henry Sin. Okay, do you remember if there was well, I didn't get a PayPal. Okay, but it was a small amount. Do you think you could have been paid in cash? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I did. So now we're in the same situation as we were with the Roundhouse, where it's just your memory from 4 years ago, hoping that you remember something was paid out. So that would be a situation where we don't know. We can't prove it because it's been so many years. But what we do have is a track record, a history. So you have Dekillsage saying I've been paid. Sonic Fox was paid. You have Perfect Legend coming forward saying he was paid. You have Sparrowgen coming forward saying every single tournament that I've worked with Art, I was paid. You have all of these events, these tournament organizers. So you have Chris Matrix saying every event that he worked with us after our thorough investigation, he's been paid. You have Elvin Shadow, who ran Frosty Fausting, saying I can confirm that you've paid for every single event. Mike, he was someone that they were saying, hey, he wasn't paid. And well, here's a receipt saying he was being paid. But yeah, but it's missing some money. Yeah, that's called fees, buddy. Matcherino fee, PayPal fee. So ultimately, it seems like all the time when people keep trying to come forward to say someone wasn't paid, they've been paid. So at this point, we're trying to put out a fire that doesn't exist. The white smoke is here and we're still spraying that foam. This doesn't make sense. And all of this from accusations that were unfounded and unsubstantiated from the very beginning, from 3 individuals who were spurned and were looking for opportunities to burn him. Bifuteki is now tucking his tail and saying, you know what, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Bum is now saying, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and if you talk to me about it, I'm gonna ban you. D-Nice is just being a coward he is, deleting Facebook messages, refusing to engage in any conversation after trying to drag my name through the mud, saying that I accuse Bum of stealing. I'm asking you, find any example of me accusing Bum of stealing. It doesn't exist. So now people recognize the tide is turning. People recognize the hero that Art was for this community. And now they're just like the three main purveyors of this nonsense are stepping back and going, you know what? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm good. That is foul. People keep talking about, oh man, this is a legal situation. We need to get lawyers involved. And it's like, do you understand? Get a lawyer involved because he paid people late. If Matcherino demanded money and threatened, if you don't, we will go legal, got every dime that they wanted, I don't know what you can do here. There is no legal. There's no accusation of theft besides 3 people on the internet. I think at this point, this case is rested. I was on my stream the other day and I was talking about the idea of like defending the situation and why I was so hesitant to like actually come forward with some of the receipts and things, because again, I didn't know what the accusations were. And I went into an analogy. Imagine you're in the middle of a forest and you're hunting and you hear a roar, but because of the reverberation, you can't tell where the roar came from. But you have a hunting rifle. Now you can just start shooting indiscriminately into the forest, hoping that you hit the target, but your chances are slim. You can just start running, but you don't know if you're running into the predator or not. You have no idea. In this situation, the reason why you're innocent until proven guilty, and the prosecution is meant to present their case first so you know what to defend against, is because otherwise, you have no idea. Y'all remember that old commercial where the wife says, you think I wouldn't figure it out? You think I wouldn't find out? The guy's like, is this about that ring that I bought you? A cubic zirconia looks just like a real diamond. Is this about? And he's just going through all of these lists of things. You don't know. And with these accusations, it's like, well, you're accusing him of stealing. Well, I'm showing you that payouts don't equal steal. I really don't know where to even go anymore. At this point, I've shown so much. So many people have come forward. Yo, like, this case is closed. There's nothing else to go off of. Free Art. At this point now, we got to start contacting the tournament organizers to make sure that they understand these accusations were unsubstantiated and that banning him was inappropriate and that he needs to be able to compete. I think Matcherino at this point needs to remove the ban from Art competing in Matcherino events and receiving Matcherino funds. If not, this injustice is still ongoing. We have to recognize that all of the people that attacked him, Bum, D-Nice, and Bifuteki, they need to make statements fixing this. You cannot make the accusations you did be proven wrong and then just say, well, let's just move on. This man's life could have been ruined. With that, I think, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Defense rests.
This deep and floating too much.